It's Thursday, December 14th, 2023. My name is Terry Morgan and we are here to practice Tai Chi. We are going to be working on Yang style Tai Chi through this series. I have another series planned for Wudang style Tai Chi. Today, Yang style Tai Chi. The fundamentals for Yang style are the same and similar to, and there's some things that are a little bit different, but the same or similar to every other system of Tai Chi. Standing practice, rooting, fluid movement through the body, paying attention to the internal workmanship. All of these are part of every Tai Chi system that we have. My studies include traditional Yang style and Wudang style Tai Chi. I also learned some Chen style. I also learned some Wu style Tai Chi. So my experience with Tai Chi generally is a little bit more than I've learned this one form over here, right? That experience also helped me in my judging. So for 15 years I was an international judge. That I still could do that if I wanted to go on. That's something that gives me another level of understanding in how we move and how the art could be and should be practiced. There are so many opportunities for variations. Some of those variations are reasonable and conform to the principles that we want to pay attention to in Tai Chi. Some other ones, not so much. So what we look for in every Tai Chi system, at fluid movement, placement, position, which we're going to look for in all of the arts anyway, placement, position, and what is this person doing? If I'm the judge, I'm looking at what is this person doing? Does it appear natural? Does the movement appear natural? Does the movement appear fluid and relaxed? This concept I've spoken about, façon. Is there a sense of flowing strength in the movement? Is there long list, okay? And we're going to go through some of that list today. We'll look at some of those elements through this entire series. I will be moving things along a little bit quickly. It won't go as slowly as it might if I was paying attention to teaching these movements for the first time. This is more of a review. I am going to present each of the movements. We're going to talk about it, and I will go through in detail, but some of the additional explanation that I've already given, I'm just going to tie together with this series. Okay, let's get started. I talked about my early training in Yang style, and that we started, this is from Huang Wei Lun, who was in Miami, Florida at the time, and every class we started with a set of stretches and walking exercises. I'm not going to go through all of those today. We are going to do the first two of those stretches. This is this big outward stretch that I do all the time. We're going to repeat that 6 times, not 3, 6. And then we're going to reverse it and go inward. Again, 6 times. Feet about shoulder width apart, hands at your sides, wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, shoulders down, pull up through the crown of the head, hands circle to the front, back around to both sides, up along the center line. Bend the knees just a little bit, stretch out over the legs. Not too fast, not too slow. Roll up through the back as you come up. Pay attention to the timing so that as you're moving, each part of the body moves smoothly with good coordination so that you arrive where you need to be all together, all at the same time. One more. Fingertips reach up, elbows drop down, keep going, follow your fingertips down. And stretch out. Use your legs, arch through the back as you come up. Do not lift through the back. Use your legs and your abdomen to lift. Everything fluid and relaxed. No stopping. Good coordination. Good timing. And one more time. Elbows drop down, stay upright. Hands return to your sides. Alright, this series was followed by, and I'll introduce a lot of that later, another series of stretches to warm up the whole body and to begin generating this internal energy that we talk about. Part of it is qi, this internal breath. Part of it is jing, the internal energy. Qi and jing are not the same. They're different concepts, they're different characters, they're different words. That idea that we have different levels of internal work that we should be paying attention to is something that often gets quite literally lost in translation. Internal breath, what's that? Well, my physical breath, hu shi, breathe in, breathe out. That's hu shi, physical breath. Qi, air, translates as breath. Translates sometimes as energy. Energy, breath. There are dozens of words and word combinations that have been used to try to translate qi. And most of them, not entirely. It's a concept that has clear reference and clear definition in Chinese traditional medicine. It has a clear it's a clear concept, and it has very clear definition in the canon of literature that's written in Chinese. Yeah, it's kind of muddled over in English here. It does, it gets muddled. That difficulty with language is something that I struggled with, especially at the very beginning. I didn't speak Chinese. I had no clue what some of these things were. And I had no entry. There was no real opportunity for me to ask, what is this? Because in part, not because there was no one willing to answer, it was because it's not an easy question to answer. It's not well, this is a computer. A computer has these parts and it does this thing. It's a physical thing we can look at, we can touch, we can take it apart, we can put it back together, we can do something with it. Well, chi is not so much a physical thing, but it is a physical thing. And we can take it apart and we can do something with it, but it's not something that you can necessarily see or touch. If I put my hand up and you press against my hand, I can let you feel what that might be. So you can feel it, but it requires that physical presence. It's not, I can put this in a box and send it to you. I can give you this nice, pretty definition, and here it is, and now you can know it. That's not it. It's not. And the effort to put that concept in this tiny box is one of the things that stops people from learning. I have to put it in this box. I have to know it this way. It has to be done this way. It only can be this way. No. In fact, in a lot of cases, it can't ever be that way. That imposition of, and I'm using myself, my own imposition of my ignorance on what I was learning when I very first started stopped me from learning. It did. I got over it. I got over it quickly. I wanted to learn, and I recognized that my effort to take what I was learning and put it in that little tiny box was preventing me from actually learning. So I stopped trying to shove it in a box, and I started learning. It's that ability to be more open is one of the fundamental things that we want to develop and we want to learn in all of our practice. Any practice, it doesn't matter what it is. In Tai Chi practice, the more open we can be, the easier it is to learn what we should be doing. Not what I think I should be doing, what I actually should be doing, right? What do I think I should be doing? I'm going to do this punch, you know. I punch, yeah. I should be doing punch. No, I shouldn't. That's not Tai Chi. It's something else. Boxing. Something else is not Tai Chi. Tai Chi. That reach and extend. I'm going to show this in just a second. In form. That concept of how we move. Not, okay? First one, Tai Chi. The second one, something else. Short punch. That difference is what we cultivate. We want to develop the skill to move fluidly, with strength, slowly. Moving slowly gives us time to pay attention to all of what we're doing. If there's something that's out of balance, if there's something that's moving too quickly or too slowly, you'll find it. You will. That skill has a side effect that when we move quickly, we can move more quickly. The body's open, everything's in good time, everything's in good place, all of the circles are complete, and that's my hand going, all of the circles are complete, all of the connections are well placed and well formed within the movement, so that there is no stopping, that everything just goes. And instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1. That idea is also fundamental to everything that I've studied with Tai Chi, and particularly what I learned from Huang Wei Lun and my studies of Yang style Tai Chi. That's what we're doing. That connection, that smooth movement, using the smooth muscles, not allowing the muscles to bunch or tense, allows us to move more completely, more fully, and ultimately more quickly. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna go this way. I'm not gonna go real slow right now. I'm gonna stop and come back to this in just a second. From the beginning, traditional Yang style, as I learned it from Huang Wei Lun. Alright, there's a little bit more. I'm going to stop there with Handstrom the Lute. This beginning segment gives us so many of the fundamentals for Tai Chi movement and the foundation movements for Yang style. Right here, ward off, pull down, ward off again, grasp the bird's tail, ward off, pull down, press, and push. Pang Lu Jian. Pang, ward off, Lu, pull down, Ji, press, on, push. These are the 4 directions. They are fundamental to every Taiji system. So it's actually the 8 directions and the 5 elements make the 13 postures. But these 4 are the 4 cardinal directions, so north, south, east, and west. As we work through this, just this little part of Yang style, we get this whole group of fundamental movements that different practice methods for different styles, right? So in what I just did, this is traditional Yang style, and I said this is as I learned it from Huang Wei Lun. Traditional Yang style from Yang Zhen Do is a little bit different. There's a little bit of difference in the way in which the movements are done. And I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I am going to talk, I did talk about that before. The long and short of it is body type and body style make a difference. So Huang Wei Lun was a small guy, little guy, slender, very flexible, very limber. He could do all kinds of things that looked like he did not have a bone in his body. And he was incredibly strong. Yang Zhen Do was taller man, barrel-shaped. So his strength, his skill, like his father's, comes from that whole body turning, not the flexibility. That difference is part of how we pass on what we learn in the martial arts. What I can do is what I can teach. I can't teach you something I don't know. If I can't do it, I can't teach it. I can't. I would like to be able to do a spinning jump kick. I can't. It doesn't work. Can I do a jump? Yes. Can I do some high kicks? Yes. Can I do a high sweep? Yes. Can I do that while I'm in the air? No. I know people who can. If you were my student, you wanted to learn it, I would get somebody who can do it and have them help you learn it. I can teach you the fundamentals for how to get up there. I can teach you the fundamentals for what you should do with the kicks. I can teach you all kinds of things you can do with the kicks. But that one move, out of all of the hundreds, thousands that I can do, that's not one of them. Okay. If you're determined that you have to learn that one move, I'm not your teacher. Never going to happen. That is something that I would like to pay attention to just a little bit. That idea that, and it's part of that preconceived notion idea. That when I started, I didn't know. There was so much I didn't know. There's so much I didn't know. And I tried to make comparisons that were only going to cause me problems. This movement has to be done this way. Well, yeah, but, right? There are variations within each system, that are normal and part of the art. There are variations, again, on variations that are not something that we want to have. In this set that I just did, I start out, ward off left, hold down right, turn, hold down left, ward off right. Just in moving more slowly. So I'm going to start more slowly. Here. I said slowly. I'm still going. Yeah, still going. All right, now here we go. So on to the left, open right. That I'm ready to go here. Ready for this one. Come forward, right? Here. That slow, controlled movement. Well placed, well centered. This is as I started learning. And that's what I thought it had to be. It can't be anything else. This is just, it must be this way. If it's Yang style, you have to start with you have to start here, and then you have to open this way, and then you're here, and then you have to do this. This is required. You have to. It has to come this way. You have to do it. No, you don't. No. This is also Yang style, but I learned from Yang Zhendo. That small difference in the opening, and with brush knee, this is as I learned it from Huang Wei Lan. And this is as I learned it from Yang Zhendo. The use of the waist is slightly different. The use of the full body is slightly different. Those differences come from the teacher. It's not it's part of who we are. So what I learned from Huang Wei Lan is traditional Yang style Taiji. What I learned from Yang Zhendo is traditional Yang style Taiji. They're different. The variations are partly due to the teacher's skill, what this individual person can do, and partly due to their study with their teachers. So what their teacher, this tradition of who taught who, right? What's the lineage? How did you come to know whatever it is you've learned? How did you learn? I watched 3,000 videos on YouTube. Never went to a class. Never actually got up and did movement. But I watched a bunch of videos. Okay. You haven't really learned something yet. You know about whatever it is you watched, but you don't know it. You can't do it. That difference matters not only for the student. You're going to learn something from somebody who knows something. You're going to learn something from somebody who casually is acquainted with. Where is your focus for your learning? And then, is it something that, for me, this is a question that I have to answer for myself. Is this something that is part of the tradition of martial arts? Is it something that was invented by somebody who read a couple of books? What are we talking about here? That difference. It's somebody's practiced, they've learned, they've studied, they read a couple books. You practice, you learn, you study, you've read a couple books, and you've done a few other things. It's just, I read a couple books and yeah, I watched a couple movies, so I know everything about it. As we develop, we find that this principle, this movement, this concept is a foundation for what we're doing. So we pay more attention to that. If we can do that, if we can move from, well, I already know what I think it is, and I'm going to impose my little box on whatever the concept is, whatever, I'm going to put it in my little box. We can get rid of the little box, move more into the open to mindset. I may not know, and that's okay. I'm going to learn. I'm going to try and be open to concepts that are not familiar to me. I don't already know them. So I need to learn them. And as I do that, I develop another perspective, another way of looking at whatever it is. In traditional Yang style Tai Chi, this idea that we move slowly, and completely, with certain characteristics in our movement that reflect Yang style Tai Chi. I'll show you this. Two ways of doing Yang style brush knee. This first one, right here. This is Huang Wen Lun. Come through. Another one, Yang Jin Do, right? Third one. This is not Yang style Tai Chi. This is, I don't know what this is. I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do. It's nothing. Okay? This is not brush knee in any system. That's a slap down. That's not brush knee. Brush knee comes up and out. Slap down, it's not brush knee. Lo xi yao bu. Brush knee twist step. Lo xi yao bu, twist. That name tells you what to do. Twist. Right? Twist. As we pay attention to the name of the movement in Chinese, we know what we should be doing. Brush knee. Brush knee, twist step. I translate the whole thing, kinda. Brush knee, twist. How do I twist? What is that, right? The understanding that comes from how we learned, that comes from the art, and that bridges this style, this style, this style, is one of the things we want to keep as a foundation and use it, develop it, and refine it so that that foundation can be extended. The skill that it takes to shift your weight, move slowly, and go into the next position, the next posture, translates to, I already talked about this, moving quickly. It also translates to being able to recognize your balance points in anything else that you're doing. It becomes part of your natural posture, your natural way of moving, so that your ordinary movement can be more relaxed, more flexible, and more fluid. Even so, you're not even practicing the form, your whole body still has that quality of flexibility and relaxed strength. So that I need to walk over here to the store. Well, get your bag and go. That quality of movement from Tai Chi carries to walking to the store. You know, I'm going to go take, I don't have a dog, but people do. I'm going to take the dog for a walk. I'm going to practice a little bit of Tai Chi while I'm taking the dog for a walk. Doesn't have to be obvious. All right? A little bit of a circle right here, right? Doesn't have to be obvious. Each time I do that, each time I pay attention to something and incorporate part of my practice in an ordinary movement, I gain greater insight and a greater ability to do that movement. From the beginning, the very beginning, Yang style Tai Chi, and I'm just going to do this first part. Same. Shift. turn. Pull down. Press. And push. Each movement, full, complete, open, well-centered, well-placed, with the intent behind, so that there is that sense that push really is push. It's not overt. It's not, let me slam into you with push. If I was going to do that, it would be different. That sense of connected, well-placed, well-balanced, smooth, with strength. That was the faster form. Push. Little fudging in there. That's difference. They're both Yang style. I learned both those from Wang Wenlin. The difference in the second one is the speed at which I'm moving. And that was my point. As we move slowly, each part, if there's tension that shouldn't be there, get rid of it. Right here, my right elbow is bothering me a little bit this morning. So, what do? Well, I need to relax it a little bit more. I need to relax my upper arm a little bit more. As I move, anything that is out of time, right? Let me do this. Arms come up, arms come down, bend the knees. No. Arms come up, stretch the whole body up. Pull in. As the arms settle down, the whole body sinks. Pull up through the spine, pull in through the lower dantian. That was correct. No. We do those movements. This is the hand movement, and we bend the knees for this opening. Right? This is the opening I learned from Wang Wenlin. So this opening, we bend the knees. Yang Jindo's opening, we don't bend the knees. It's different. It's still Yang style. Those minor differences don't run counter to the idea. Drop the shoulders, raise the arms, bring the arms down. There's an application there too, by the way. All right, that opening. I stood straight. I didn't sink. Yanjin Do's opening. Swan Wenlun's opening. Whatever point my hands stop, that's where my legs stop. Or whatever point my legs stop, my hands stop. Everything goes together. That is required. Everything goes together is required. The internal work that I'm doing, just this one move, is different depending on which version I'm paying attention to. Here, pull up the back, down the front, pull in and pull up through the crown of the head, pull up through the hips, turn, ready, sink, step, pull in through the center, pull in through the waist, pull up through both legs. Circle a little bit. I'm going to do this a little bit exaggerated. As the hands come up, circle slightly to the inside. Breathe in. And as the hands come out, slightly to the outside. Settle the whole body as the hands come down. Everything goes down. Keep going. Yeah, you keep going. You keep going. You can. You can keep going. That opening, right? You don't get to, once you're down there, you don't get to come up. That's where you stay. That is, again, something that is fundamental for Yang style. That level position that we don't really go up and down. Fundamental. Again, I'm going to go back to the slow, fast differences in how we move. No, I'm not going to do that much of a rocking back and forth through the legs in the same manner. So on here, pull down, press, and push. Not quite. I'm not moving fast enough. I'm not. That flexibility to move smoothly, that was better. Move smoothly, move quickly, and maintain the fundamental shape and flavor of the form is part of what we want to develop, and we need to look at that as we're practicing, so that if it's Wu style uses very small circles. Alright, it's the nature of Wu style. If the person who is practicing Wu style is using some big circle thing up here, that's not correct. It's not Wu style. I don't know what that was. That was not. That was wave my arms around. Alright? If it's Chen style, that spiral is going to be dominant. Chen style likes that spirals. It really does. Yang style likes broad sweeping movements. Bigger circles, generally. There is a small frame form and there's a large frame form, and there's differences in the systems. Again, this is partly due to the teachers and the practitioners who have developed the style. it's a popular style. That was part of why it was developed in the first place, so more people could practice. Yang style is generally used for most, not all, but most therapeutic practice, in the US anyway, and it's easier to learn than Chen style or Wu style or Wudang styles. Good luck with that. That difference is fundamental to each of the styles, and the idea that they each have their own particulars for what you're doing in each of the movements is part of each of those systems. Underneath that, the foundation for brush knee, and brush knee, right? Shift the weight, turn the toes, step through. Left hand goes around the left knee, right hand pushes out. Brush knee. Wudang style brush knee. There's a little bit more waist, a little bit more use of the hip and the lower dantian, and there's a little bit more twist in the step. That subtle difference I'm taking a single whip there. Brush knee. As we work through, that is Wudang style. That's opening for Wudang style. That's what I was talking about. Yang style is easier to learn. It is an elegant system that asks us to pay attention to fine movement. It asks us to refine the movement so that we have that quality in our movement of relaxed strength and subtle use of all of the muscles in each movement. That refinement asks us to pay attention to the internal workmanship in many ways differently than what we want to pay attention to or what we need to pay attention to in Wudang style. In my own practice, for Yang style Tai Chi, that sense of quiet, refined movement. For Wudang style Tai Chi, that sense of open and dynamic connection through the movement. It's part of what I learned. That slow, relaxed. Do this again. This Yang style. Breathe. And it's slow, and it's relaxed, and it's quiet, and it's much more like what we would think of in practicing Qigong. Right? Nice and easy, everything's well placed. Nice circles, relaxed, comfortable. This is good. This was all right. I wasn't too low. Could have been better. All right, Wudang style. It's different. It is. The character of the form is different. The way that the form moves is different. Still Tai Chi. Still has that connected movement. It still has the sense of connecting the internal breath and the internal energy with the external movement and the external, the physical breath, so that as we're moving, everything works together. That idea is part of every Tai Chi system as well. The differences, and this is, I'm going to wrap up here, the differences that we want to pay attention to are style differences. So, is this correct for Yang style? What I'm doing for Wudang style is not correct for Yang style. It doesn't belong there. It doesn't. It's putting spaghetti sauce in the chili. Doesn't belong there. This is spaghetti sauce. This is chili. The flavors are different. We can have both. We can. But I'm really probably not going to put spaghetti in my chili. And I don't want, I might have crackers or some bread, but I'm not going to, really don't want spaghetti in with my chili. I might put spaghetti sauce on some noodles. I could do that. I'm probably not going to just eat the spaghetti sauce out of a bowl, but I'll probably eat the chili out of a bowl. That'd be it, right? Tomatoes, spices, onion, peppers. Tomatoes, onions, spices, peppers. They can have meat or not. This one have beans or not. As we pay attention to Tai Chi, we have that same, it's the same idea. I have tomatoes, onions, peppers, spices. I have the fundamentals. I have the stepping method. Stepping method is a rolling step. It's always going to be a rolling step. There are no other steps in Tai Chi. I mean, systems do step. I mean, there's a couple of ways that we can step in Tai Chi. But for the most part, it's right here. It's this rolling step. So that we're constantly in the form, working the circle, figure eight actually, and that we are continually moving. In Xingyi, we did this yesterday, Xingyi stepping, step, step, close. That's not the same as what we want to do in Tai Chi. I don't step, step, close like that in Tai Chi. It doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. If it is happening, it's a problem. Each step in Tai Chi should be smooth and well placed. So my foot leaves, and it returns. It's not No. And if I gotta put my foot down, I'm not in balance and I'm not strong enough to hold my foot where I put it. I need to develop that strength. Practice gives us that. The way that we practice, how we move, and what we do in each of the movements, in each form, contributes to what the whole form looks like. For Yang style Tai Chi, that flowing river, it doesn't go up and down. It varies a little bit, but it's generally smooth and continuous in one direction. We do turn around, but we don't go over here, now back over here, and now we're going over this way. It's all fundamentally along a straight line. As we work through that, we find out what the steps look like. Okay? And I'm going to wrap up here real quick. One of the things that I learned early on, I had the opportunity to go to the beach and practice. And where I would try to stand mattered. There's hard sand here. This is squishy and I'm just going to sink into this. As I found a place where the sand was hard enough that I could stand and transfer my weight and work on one leg, I just did that, right? This transfer the weight right here on sand, and literally on sand. That gives you your balance. It really does. You find it really quick. It also gave me the opportunity to literally see my footsteps. Right? Start here, right? As I open, turn here, step, turn this, come back, finish the form, and I could look at what I did. It was the footprints on the sand, right? That gave me another level of understanding for how to move, how to step, and how to adjust my stepping so that it was more even, more well-placed, balanced, and that I could return to where I started, which is one of the requirements for both Yang style and Wudang style forms. Believe it's a requirement for Chen style and Wu style as well, but I know for a fact it's for Yang style and Wudang style. Wherever you start, that's where you're supposed to end up. How to do that? Stepping has to be well placed. Your length of step, the way that you change your step, has to be even and in accord with the art, whichever one this is Yang style, Wudang style, whichever one you're practicing, so that you actually do return to where you started. It's built into the form. It really is. It's built into the form. It's built into the choreography that we have for the forms. That requirement, return to the place that you started from, is also a foundation concept for all of our practice. That centered position that we want when we start, when we finish, we want to be in the same place. How wide do I step? Well, if I start out this wide, then I have to keep that width for the entire form. If I start out this wide, I pretty much have to keep that width for the entire form. That part of the choreography, I end up where I started, is part of the discipline for how to do the movements. If, again, I'm just repeating this, if we don't end up where we started, there's something wrong. Something you did, it's not correct. What was it? You started out too narrow, and you got longer. You started out too wide, and you got shorter. You started out okay, and then you varied this, and you changed that, and you came back and you came up short. I started here, and I ended up over here, or something. That is part of what we want to analyze. We want to pay attention to it. That's why I went to the beach. That's when I'm practicing on the sand. I'm going to see what I'm doing. That effort to make your step regular, and regular for you, and regular according to how you start the form. You start lower, you stay lower. You start higher, you stay higher. Whichever one it is, that's what you do for the entire form. Wudang style is a little different. There are some up and downs in Wudang style that are part of the form. They're not add-ons, they're not variations, they're part of the form. The only real up and down in Yang style comes in leg sweep and in snake creeps down. So in the second part of Yang style, we have that leg work. And I can be better. I got to pick up the other one, do the same thing, and turn around. I got to work on that. That one and snake creeps down, which I'm not going all the way down today. Right? Here, this goes all the way down. Those two movements in Yang style are really the only up and down that we do. In Wudang style, there are a couple other variations, so as we're moving through the different sets, we do move a little bit more. We do move a lot more, actually. Okay. 1, 2, 3, down and up. I want to sink right before I come out. Just a little bit. It doesn't have, it's not a lot, but some. That difference, how we do the movement, what kind of movements are we doing, what goes on underneath each of the movements, the intent behind, and the quality of the movement. This idea of a little bit more dynamic versus more elegant. This is softer. This is more dynamic is the only word that's coming to mind right now. So Yang style is more soft, more elegant. It has qualities of movement that are refined and elegant. Wudang style has qualities of movement that are also refined. The elegant part leans more toward the martial than it does toward the subtle. It's a little bit easier to see some of what we're doing in Wudang style Tai Chi. It's similar in some ways, and that characteristic similar in some ways to Chen style. So for Yang style Tai Chi, at the beginning, we have this sense of being well placed, well connected, and centered. Whichever system we're going to practice, and I'm going to start with Huamelun's Yang style, is where we begin, right? So knowing this is what I'm going to do. I'm standing here. What am I going to do? Am I going to do Bagua? Am I going to do Wudang style? What am I going to do here? I'm going to do Yang style Tai Chi according to how I learned it from Huamelun. That arm was just a little bit early. And turn. Each of these movements, and I'm gonna pay attention to this for a second. As I come around in single whip, I'm a little bit higher than what I was when I started. Right, the step came up. I need to pay attention to that. It's one of the elements that we want to cultivate. What it gives us, the side effect, besides being in conformity or conforming to the traditional way of practice, it gives us a greater recognition of the variations. If I'm paying attention, right, I'm paying attention here to sink into this leg and step through and make sure I stay down. Keep the same angle to the foreleg, or to the thigh, not the foreleg, the thigh. Okay, and right here, as I turn, stay. And now go. So that this line stays at the same level. What that gives you is a much greater understanding of the variations. So as you try to stay level, as you try to keep your waist level to the floor, that effort gives you the variations. Makes it easier for you to see them in an opponent. Makes it easier for you to see them in your own movement. Now you can use them. The method of practice gives us what we can do with that particular form, that particular system. How we practice may not be what's expected. I've talked about this a lot, my own expectations, that little bitty box. I don't expect to be able to move quickly if all I'm doing is practicing slowly. I don't. Why would I expect that? This is slow practice. What if I have to actually use this? What am I supposed to do? Tell the person to wait. Wait. I'm gonna get there. Right? That idea that there's intent, there's martial art behind this. It's not wave my hands around and do whatever. It's there is something more that goes with that idea is what should be present and for me is required. Okay? If it's not clear what application might be, there's an application here. What is it? What are we doing? If that's not clear, the movement's not complete. If it's so distorted that there's no possibility that there could ever be an application, it's just wrong. Okay? That's wrong. My arm's way behind my shoulder. Right? This is wrong. Don't do it. If your arm needs to be here, your shoulder needs to be here. That understanding. I don't do this. I'm never going to do that. Not. Not going to do that either. Nothing. That ain't nothing. Now, I might do that. That was something. Right? It's not Tai Chi necessarily. Yeah, there's a back kick in Tai Chi. There's several of them. That push forward, kick back. Yeah, I could do that. Not that. I know what that is. Let me see, and you should be able to, and for me as a judge, as a teacher, let me see that you understand that there's something to be done with whatever this movement is. If you don't, you either haven't learned it yet. Yeah, you're starting out, you haven't learned it yet. It's okay. You haven't learned it yet. Nobody's introduced that idea to you. Or it's something else. I don't care. I don't really want to be bothered with the idea that there's supposed to be something over here. Okay. You don't care about that. Not my student. Yes, not my student. It matters. Okay, for me it matters. Empty movement is empty. It will always be empty. There may be times when we want to practice learning to be empty. I want that emptiness. I want that sense of nothing. That it's just fluid and flowing. And everything works. That sense, yes. That I don't know what I'm doing. There's no intent, there's no mindfulness behind the movement. That there's no sense of balance, placement, connectedness through the body and through the internal body. It's not complete. It's okay for a beginner. You have to start someplace, right? Where do you start? Well, feet together, stand straight, bend the knees, open here, come to center, raise the arms, pull down, shift the weight, turn the toes, bring the arm up. You have to go through that. That has to be part of the learning process. As you develop that skill, and it doesn't take that much. Part of it is somebody saying, hey, don't do that. Do it this way. And those corrections. That not everything is okay. Right? was fine. Well, no, it's not. Not in my world anyway. So, what should you do? How should you do it? What do you need to pay attention to in order for your practice to reflect traditional Yang style Tai Chi, or whatever Tai Chi system it is, or whatever other art it is, right? What do you need to do so that when you move, when you do something, someone who knows, like me, a lot of others, there's lots of folks who know. Someone who knows can look at what you're doing, know what you're doing. It really is possible. Know what you're doing. Be able to see whether or not your movement carries your intent. Timing, placement, all of it has to come together as part of what you're doing. If that's all present, and what you're doing has the quality of movement that belongs with the art that you're practicing, it will all come through. If you don't know what you're doing, and there's a part of, I think I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. And that's what I'm getting at. The person who hasn't learned it yet, it's not their fault. They haven't learned it yet. Some other people, they didn't have a good teacher. The teacher didn't know what they were doing. I met those people too. It's not that person's fault. They tried to learn. They didn't have the opportunity. They didn't have somebody who could teach them. They haven't gotten there yet. It's not their fault. The one that thinks they know it all. Oh, I know that, and I learned that, and this is the way it is, and, right? And I've been there myself. That's the person who doesn't know anything. And you think you know. Show me some. No? Okay. Yeah, maybe not. That evaluation is something that we need to actively learn and pay attention to. It's part of tradition, and it's part of being able to see past appearances, something that we look for in Qigong practice, to be able to disregard, not pay attention to the outward appearance so much that we can look inward and we can see what is going on. So the outward appearance, I put on the nice silk pajamas and I get all dressed up, and I'm going to talk to you about Tai Chi, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about that, and I'm just going to stand here and talk about it. I'm not going to do anything because I can't. Is that what you're interested in? A nice suit and well-spoken words? That's an appearance. That's not necessarily reality. Now, that person could actually be extremely well-versed in the art that they're talking about. Good. Does their outward appearance make them more qualified? Nope. Makes them look nicer. Dressed up, right? One more time, beginning for Yan style Tai Chi. Feet together, stand straight. Salute. Pull up. And sink. Open. Relax the breath. And pick your level. That's where you need to stay. Each step well placed. Each movement in good time. Round so that everything has a circle. As we move through, keeping those connections, keeping the movement smooth, takes more effort. This is the long form. So it's 103 movements. There's 4 name movements. We're going to go through the whole form. Not today. Next time, I'm going to take up the next segment and work just a little bit more on this idea of keeping a level and what's the intent? What goes behind each movement? There's more than just, yeah, let me pay attention to this opponent over here. I appreciate all of you being here today. I will be back tomorrow with Wudang Qigong. We're still working on the first set, and I'll be going through in more detail from Professor Liu's book on Wudang Qigong. I hope you'll join me for that. Next week, Xingyi on Wednesday, Tai Chi again on Thursday, and Qigong on Friday. No class on Monday and Tuesday. Thank you.